Deucey Goosey, our Spade card soldier, is having a birthday soon, and what better way could there be to celebrate than to craft him a very fancy rosette backing for one of his pins? And for the first time ever in this series, we in fact have a bona fide, genuine birthday pin. Despite this, we are still going for a regular old Heartslable backing with a little dark blue flare to match our birthday boy, because I found this really fun wire ribbon that has roses on it, and it immediately reminded me of Heartslable. So that's just what we're going to be doing here. If I do ever happen to find a sleepwear pin of Deuce's, though, I will 100% make a backing matching it because it is by far my favorite sleepwear card in existence. I was so hype when I first saw the art. It is so darn good. I love it so much. It is truly and wholly iconic. Same as Deuce. This recovering delinquent is a freshman at NRC, whose in game album entry describes him as an earnest young man who enrolled at Night Raven College with the singular aim of becoming a respectable mage. He tries as hard as he can in his schoolwork, but he can be slow on the uptake, and his grades suffer as a result. Deuce is also in the track and field club, a deft hand at physical training, a big fan of anything egg-related, but not so much a fan of bell peppers. He's got a bit of a sordid past, but he's trying to make up for it, and that factor is what tipped the scales in his favor for me. While Deuce is trying to be an honor student now, back in middle school he was an infamous delinquent. So infamous that even Ethel's relatives had heard of Deuce's misdeeds and passed along that message to a young Ethel. Deuce got into fights all the time, stirred up all sorts of trouble, skipped classes, maybe even stole or borrowed a blast cycle or two for some joyrides. You know, a standard garden variety mischief and whatnot. This lashing out was mainly a result of his slower learning style, not of any sort of attitude or complex or superiority, and that gives him a bit more credibility, in my opinion. Not understanding lessons or subjects in school is a very frustrating, albeit relatable experience, and when that continues to happen without any help or relief, the frustration builds up. When you're young, you usually don't have the tools to communicate this frustration properly, and sometimes you don't have the ability to funnel that energy into something productive either. Sometimes the only thing you can do is lash out at whoever or whatever exists around you. To this day, I remember struggling with math every single year of my education, no matter what kind or how supposedly simple it was, nothing would stick. To this day, I still do not know some of my times tables because my brain refuses to learn them, especially the 12 times anything. Those just do not stick. I don't know what to do. There was even a time that my father decided to check over my addition and subtraction work and found nearly every single answer to be wrong. So, the only logical thing my kindergarten brain could come up with in response to such an embarrassment was to blame the mistakes on my stuffed animal cat named Kitty. And through the process of correction, I kept scolding Kitty for my mistakes. My father did not indulge this and did not also scold the inanimate cat, rather scolding me instead, trying to refocus my attention onto the work so that he could perhaps teach me how to add and subtract properly. And eventually, I did in fact learn how to do these things. A monumental feat, I know. Deuce, however, did not have a kitty to blame, and so his outlet became hanging out with other kids who also thought that school was stupid. Though their reasons for this thought may have been different, there was camaraderie and solidarity within it, and finding that sort of place was likely considered by Deuce to be a great outlet for the frustration that he was feeling. It wasn't until he saw the direct consequences of his actions reflected in his mother's sorrow that the reality of this unhealthy coping mechanism hit him, and it hit him hard. From then on, he's been doing his best to make up for these mistakes, to become an honors student, to be someone his mother can be proud of so that he never causes her pain again. And this goal is just so ridiculously wholesome. Deuce truly is a good egg at his core. If he wasn't, his mother's tears would never have reached him in the way that they did, and he wouldn't have the same sort of moral structure that he does. That's not to say that Deuce miraculously transformed into a goody two shoes. He still has his moments, but on the whole, he does his best to be good, and I think that's worth a lot. It also helps that his character acts as a wonderful counter to Ace, who is a lot less serious overall and much more prone to academic misdeeds. On their own, each character has strengths and weaknesses, naturally. But together, the banter is divine. Deuce is serious and sees things in black and white, whereas Ace is more of a jokester who thrives in the gray area. The friction between them creates this wonderful dynamic and a bunch of comedic moments where the two end up causing way more trouble for each other due to their conflicting worldviews. They rag on each other quite a bit, but they also support each other and help each other grow, challenging each's ideals and actions in what ends up being a positive direction. Speaking of growth, I think Deuce's unique magic is just the bee's knees, so I'm going to talk about it for a little bit. When I got to the beach scene in Book 5, my heart was so warm from the wholesome interaction Deuce and Apple were having. To see Deuce recognize Apple's frustration within his current circumstances, empathize with it, and then actively try to help the boy through it using his own experiences and sharing his own story, that was a special moment. For that scene to then end with Deuce developing his special magic and having that discussion gate-kept behind a new chapter, man, I was hooked. It also helped that at the time, I still had quite the vendetta against Ace. So to see Deuce, the kid who was actually trying and actually motivated, develop his special magic before Ace, it was beautiful. The magic itself also speaks to Deuce's whole personality too, as do all the special magics technically. However, I think due to the moment where it manifested, my perception of it was way more positive than any of the previous reveals. Almost every other reveal was done through talking. Riddle, Trey, Cater, everyone just explains their spell to us when it comes up because that's naturally how those conversations would go. If I walked up to Trey and was like, "What does Doodle Suit do?" he would just tell me because I wasn't there to see it discovered alongside him. But to see a special magic develop in real time was such a unique experience in that moment. The fact that Deuce absorbs then deflects the magic back doubled, on top of that reveal on the beach, just fit so well and was so fun. It was like, of course that's what Deuce can do. It's Deuce. It just made so much sense to me. I don't really know how to articulate it any better than, yep, that's Deuce. That makes sense, you know? He's just so consistently adorable to me. Deuce is trusting in a very pure way, like we get to see in Glorious Masquerade, where he lends Azul his special spell. Bro does not even take a second to suspect Azul, someone he presumably already dealt with in Book 3 and therefore should have absolutely learned a lesson. But he just gives up his magic for the greater good. Given the circumstances, I don't really blame him, and while he is decently trusting, there are lines Deuce won't cross. He even holds others accountable for their misdeeds on occasion, too, like his cauldroning of Ace, tussling with the egg destroying students, and even facing off against Riddle. All of these aspects combined and his overall earnest efforts make him exceptionally endearing to me, so much so that he's ended up at the top of my freshman tier list. When making this rosette, though, I made a few short sighted mistakes, like putting hot glue on a semi transparent ribbon, resulting in this extremely apparent drip. An action not thought through very well, just like Deuce's assumptions that all eggs were fertilized. And it was in these trying moments that I remembered that there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. And so a devilish idea was born. The idea to double down. If it looks like a drip, talks like a drip, and acts like a drip, it might as well be a drip, right? All our card soldiers have to paint the roses at some point, and a rosette is named after this mighty flower, so naturally it should follow that a Heartslable rosette made from white petals should also be painted, no? At the very least, I figured this would be a very Deuce solution to this particular problem, since the boy pulls from his past experiences more than his imagination. Even in the beginning of the story, when Deuce is trying to stop Ace, the poor boy can't think of anything other than a cauldron. So I think it stands to reason that if Deuce saw this drip mistake, he too would only be able to think about dripping paint given how often he's seen it. Even though their dorm flowers drip paint from the top, I think these additions still evoke the same imagery, even if it's a bit more crime scene-y in this context. But hey, Deuce wants to be a cop, right? So that still kinda connects in a way. Maybe. But if not, it definitely relates to being beheaded, so I still think that it's on brand. And now that our rose has been partially and perhaps dubiously painted, I think it is time to wish our birthday boy a most wondrous and happy day. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. Like always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this little craft, my rant, Deuce, or what have you in the comments down below. If such things aren't your vibe, you can always like and subscribe instead to show your support. And before you go, I just have to remind you that you're amazing and I hope you have a wonderful day.